always thanks to our sponsors that make this happen. Without them, we can't do it. So make sure and stop by the channels and say hi to them. And then another thing that this event has done is they've put together this really fabulous fundraiser. So if anybody is interested in donating, you can do one of two things. You can scan the QR code on the top right and you can make a direct donation. Or you can scan the QR code on the bottom, and for 20 bucks, you can get a raffle ticket. And then what's going to happen is they're going to split the pot with the charity. If you're interested with this, it supports the Chicago Public Schools through the Children's First Fund. So please consider donating. This is the QR code if you would like to fill out the survey at the end of the conference. I'm sure you'll probably see this plenty of times today. All right, so to the meat of all of this, and I will let you know, I'm going to pop chat open. So if anybody has any questions, I know you guys are muted, but feel free to pop something in the chat if you have a question, and I'll try to keep an eye on it. And if I see something pop up, then I will try to answer the question. I'm not sure if you guys can use the hand raising tool. You might be able to. So you could also do that. So if you have any questions, yep, I see it. That's fabulous. Perfect. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand, post it in chat. And I can't take you off mute either, but we could definitely chat together. All right, so I put this deck together because I have been involved with a lot of the online products since at the very, very beginning when we were beta testing things. And as Microsoft rolled out more and more Office 365 products, they just kind of got all over the place. And there was people who were like, I would talk to them and be like, oh, did you know you could solve that problem using this? Or did you know you could solve that problem using that? Or they'd say, oh, well, I want to do this. And I'd be like, oh, did you know it could do this, this, and this? And so ultimately, it kind of created this idea of just some random things that, I would say, oh, you can do this. And people will be like, I didn't even know Office 365 could do that. So I put this together. We're going to go, think of it kind of like a sampler when you go to a restaurant. We're going to go over high level, just a few things you might or might not know about. Most of the time people walk away with at least something that maybe they didn't know before this. So I have been doing this for a long time. I've been in IT for over 20 years. My big claim to fame is I worked with SharePoint, and I've been working with SharePoint for over 15 years, since about the time it came out. I am a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm part of the Microsoft Regional Director Program, which basically means I get to sit on a lot of Microsoft calls and I get to know a lot about what's going on so I can help you guys understand it better. I've also been teaching and training, and I run my own IT consulting company, and I stay pretty busy. If you want any help, if you want to follow up with me, my email address is on here. I will respond as quickly as possible. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. I post primarily about Microsoft stuff, so you don't have to worry about getting too much crazy stuff in there. And then I also have a contact us form. You can go to that bit.ly, or you can scan the QR code. If you want help with your project from my consulting team, just simply scan that, fill out your information, and we'll schedule a follow-up to see if we can help you with whatever you need. All right, so I put this infographic together because a lot of people ask me, isn't Office 365 just a collection of different applications? And while kind of, yes, it is, there is a little bit of rhyme and reason to this. And so I put this infographic together at a really high level, just to start explaining to people how some of this stuff is connected. And then we'll kind of go into some of the tools that you may or may not know about. And so what ends up happening is in the old days, we had different applications and we had Active Directory, and Active Directory would give access to things. And Microsoft realized that the same people were working in the same groups and collaborating in the same resources. So they created this idea of the Office 365 group. And the Office 365 group is essentially, think of it like a security group, a group of people who are going to be working with the same stuff, kind of in the same resources and the same tools. And then they said, well, if they're going to be in the group anyways, why not just go ahead and build the resources around them? And so they went ahead and said, okay, if you create a group, then you're probably going to need a SharePoint site to store your content. You're probably going to need a calendar to share your events. You're probably going to need an email conversate. You're probably going to need something to manage task management tools. And so this group is kind of the linchpin for everything in Office 365, because all of the resources get their permissions directly from that group. And then as you kind of go forward, there's more and more pieces to this. In addition, they added Teams, and a lot of people get really confused about what's the difference between Teams and SharePoint, what's the difference between Teams and everything else. Well, once I have that Office 365 group and I have all of those resources, all those tools available to me connected to that group, I can simply lay Teams over the top of that, and I can marry up my Office 365 group with a team. And then I can see all those resources directly through Teams. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I want to say that just at the beginning, because as we start talking about some of these tools, you're going to be like, yeah, but wait a minute, Sharon, you're talking about Office 365 and you're talking about Teams, and we're super confused. So it's easier just to say this is an Office 365 group. The group has resources that are associated with anybody that's in that group, and then Teams just kind of lays on the top and allows us to access those resources. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about on our nice little appetizer sampler platter is this tool called Microsoft Shifts. So some of you guys might have remembered there was something called Staff Hub, and Microsoft basically said, hey, Staff Hub's really cool, a lot of people like it. Maybe we should make it work in Teams so that we've got it accessible for everybody to use. So we've got this tool now called Microsoft Shifts. If for whatever reason you were using Staff Hub and you are now using Shifts, or you want to use Shifts, this is a lesser known fact, but you actually can migrate your content from an old Staff Hub implementation into Shifts via these options right here. I have put my deck out into the sessions channel, so if you look out there, I've actually attached it to my name, so you have access to this and you can get these links from there. All right, so there's a little bit of kind of confusion about how Shifts works, and I've dug into this and I've done some playing with it, and I've kind of come up with a few kind of tips and tricks around it. Microsoft Shifts is designed as a shift management tool. It's not designed to be anything beyond that, but it is a shift management tool. So if you're a small organization, or you're just simply trying to manage a small team and you're just like, hey, I just want someone to keep track of who's doing what, this is a fantastic tool for that. It's not as much of a task management tool like Planner is, but it does have a few task management qualities. The long and short of it is that basically it's in Teams, so you can have one shift schedule per team, and I'll show you how this works at the end. I'll show you some demos of these so you can see it in real live action. But you can only have one shift schedule per team, so it's for one. Only a team owner can create a shift schedule to begin with. So if you're not an owner of the team, you cannot create that shift schedule. You have to be an owner. The idea is that it's to keep first-line workers in sync. So remember I said it's a shift management tool first and foremost. The really nice thing is, much like the rest of Teams, it was built mobile first. So what ends up happening is the users who are using this, the workers, I find that it's really easy for them to access what they need using the mobile app, and that makes it super easy because most people, if they're doing shift management and shift work, they don't want to go get on their computer to find out what their shift is, or to trade shifts, or to request time off. And so it works really, really well in the mobile app. The really great thing is the PC app is a little easier for the managers to look at the schedule as a whole and see everybody's stuff and see what's going on, mostly because you have a little bit more landscape. If you think about the fact that your phone's only, yay big, and your monitor's quite a bit bigger, you have more real estate to be able to see that. So what I recommend is that typically I tell people, have the managers manage shifts in a computer monitor setting, and then have your users access it through the mobile app, through the Teams mobile app. And it looks a little bit better, right? Managers then can create, update, and manage shift schedules for one or more teams. So just again, you have to be part of the team to even participate in this. So if you're a manager, you have to be owner of the team, which gives you access to own the schedule. If you're a member of the team, you can be a member of the schedule in shifts. But if you are not part of the team, you don't get to play inside of shifts at all. So that they're one-to-one. Remember, the teams match up to the shift schedules themselves. And I'll show you what this looks like in a demo in just a little bit. All right, there are a few provisos, a few things you need to know about shifts. So first of all, Shifts is available in all Office 365 subscriptions. That include Teams, except for it's not available in the GCC tenant yet, as far as I know, and it's not available in the Teams free tenant. So you can use it on pretty much any of the other licenses. The way to know is you're going to click on that ... and if the little Shifts icon is there, you'll be able to use it. If not, then either it's been disabled or you don't have it in your tenant. One thing that I noticed as I was playing with this and as I was demoing it with other clients is that all time blocks are equal. And I'll show you what this means in the demo. But essentially what happens is every single entry is the same, whether it's a work time or a time off time or whatever it is, every single block is equal. So everything is just sitting out there. Couple of things that happen with this is, number one, workers can see other people's time. So remember how I said you can see that landscape view if you're on your computer, and so everybody can see everybody's time. That's not a big deal, right? Okay, so what? I know if so-and-so is working at another time, but just remember, if you put any details in the comments or anything like that, everybody on the team can see it. Another thing that's kind of interesting is, because all blocks are equal, I can have a time off block and somebody else can have a work block, and I can actually request a swap, or vice versa. They can have a time off block and I can have a work time block and I can ask to swap. So you can actually swap time off blocks and work blocks. There is a way for managers to decline that request, but you kind of got to keep an eye on it, because there's no real identification of which one is which in terms of the computer, or the system doesn't stop you from swapping those things. So you actually have to pay attention to that. Like I said, the time off does display everything. So, I wouldn't necessarily go in there and post, I'm going to be off today because I'm getting a colonoscopy, unless you want everybody in your team to know what you're doing and where you're going to be. So this is a shift management tool. It is not designed to be an HR tool. It doesn't have super secret information. It's just simply something to keep track of kind of who's doing what and where. All right, there are a few things you can't quite do yet. You cannot schedule reoccurring shifts. You can copy and paste, and I'll show you how that works, but you can't schedule a reoccurring shift like you would on your calendar. So in Outlook, when you go to schedule a reoccurring meeting, I want it to happen every single day at this time. You can't do that. What you can do is create a shift that goes maybe Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and then I want to copy that whole week and I want to paste it to every week after that. That you can do. So you can't do any reoccurring shifts. You also cannot add guest users into shifts. They must be part of the tenant and they must be part of the team. So this gets a little difficult if you have a lot of guest or external users. Just remember that they have to be part of the team to be able to access it, and they have to be part of the tenant to be able to access shifts. All right. Another little gotcha you guys probably should know is there is something called a first line worker policy in Teams administration. And I played around with this a little bit. What it does is, by default, it changes the view for any users that are assigned that policy so that they don't see all the extra things in Teams. All they see is the ability to basically go into shifts and see their schedule. I would highly recommend that you look at the policy and test it out. Don't just apply it blindly. There's a couple weird things that happen. First of all, it takes some options off it. It does take a while for it to propagate. So it takes it a while for it to change, and it takes it a while for it to change back. So before you do it, just make sure that you test it out before you apply it out to everybody. All right. So how to find shifts, it's in Microsoft Teams. So if you open the Teams desktop application or the Teams browser application, on the left-hand side, if you go down, you've got all your little icons. At the very, very bottom, there should be that ... of kind of the overflow applications, things that don't quite fit on the left navigation. And shifts should be an option in that ... area. It's a little purple thing with a clock. You should be able to find it in there. When you click on that, it will take you into the shifts application within Teams. On your phone, if you go down to the bottom and click on that same ... for more, that's kind of like it's the same as your left navigation. If you click on that, there should be a pop-up panel, and then shifts should be in that pop-up panel. Depending on what version of Teams you have on your phone, if you haven't updated, you might have to just slide the little drawer out. There's a little line at the top, and you can slide that little drawer out. And you can see those applications from there as well, if you can't find that little dot, dot, dot to click on it. All right, I'm going to take just a few minutes to show you about shifts. So if I go out here to Teams, I'm just going to kind of show you what shifts looks like in the real world so you can kind of see it. So remember I said you can just go to this dot, 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 and it's this little clock icon right here. What you're going to see is that it's a schedule view. And so each of these schedules correlates one-to-one to a team. So I'm going to go back and show you my teams. So I have some teams out here. In this particular scenario, I've set up some teams. So I've got this corporate challenge team. I've got my HR team. I've got my finance team, right? I've got a few things out here that are going on. And then if I go down to shifts, you can see that one of them is in HR. So what you want to do is click on this hamburger menu that's up here at the top, and it will tell you what schedules you have, what shift schedules have been created. So I've got one that goes to corporate challenge, one that goes to demo, one that goes to HR. And down here at the bottom, if I want to create a new schedule, if there's nothing here, just go right to the bottom and click new schedule. If you are a team owner, it is going to tell you the teams that exist that you have the ability to create a schedule for, that you have not already done that, okay? So it's going to say, here's the ones that you're allowed to do, and here's the ones that have not been done yet that you have access to. And so you're just simply going to select which one you want to make. You're going to give it a time zone, and then you're going to say, okay. And what will happen is it will create a shift schedule for you, and then you can fill out what you want in there. All right, so quick high-level overview of this. We've got two more topics to go over. So remember, I told you it's a sampler. What you can see in here is you can see that I've created groups. So you can create separate groups to organize maybe separate shifts. So maybe you have a morning shifts. Maybe you have a group like blue group and red group. Maybe you've got different teams that you're trying to keep track of. Maybe you just have everybody on one place, but you can do kind of different things based on what makes the most sense to you. That right here is right here at the top where it says add group. You can just simply add a group to this, and then you can call it whatever you want. All right. And then in each of these groups, you can select the people that are in that group. And it's only going to give you access to the people that are inside of that team. If they're not in the team, they cannot be in the group in the shift schedule. So it'll give you the choice of who to add. Once you've added people, you can choose. You can add shifts to this open shifts area, which is just shifts that are available to anybody. By clicking on these three little dot, dot, dots, you can click on an app and add open shifts. See how we've got our copy and paste option? I can add an open shift. It'll default to the most recent shift that I filled out. You can change any of this if you want. You can save it. And what it will happen is it'll show up as an available shift for anybody on that team. Anybody on the team can select that shift, can request that shift, or you can assign it as a manager. But before you do that, notice that there's a little star on it, and know that there's a star up here on the share with team. As a manager, it's allowing me to put in whatever shifts I want. So I'm going to add another shift here. And notice that it's there, but my team members can't see it yet because I haven't shared it out. So as a manager, I'm adding it to my shift schedule. And then when I'm ready for my team to see it, I can simply say share with the team. It's going to say, do you want to send it to everybody or only the people that maybe if you've just assigned somebody a shift and that's all that you want them to see, you don't care about everybody else seeing it. You can pick what you want to share, who you want to share it with, and then you just click the share button and it will go out to everybody so they can see that. As a manager, then, like I said, I can go in here and I can assign this open shift to somebody, or my team members could actually go in and request that shift so they could add it to themselves. Once you've done that, people can then go request shifts. They can look at their shifts. They can ask to trade shifts. When that happens, if you go to this request section, you can see that somebody might have requested a time off. or they might have requested to swap a shift with somebody else, or they might have requested to work a shift. And then as the manager, you can go in here and you can approve or decline as a manager if people request those shifts. You can also create a new request for yourself. So I can request time off, I can request to swap something, or I can offer a shift up to somebody else. And basically, the users or the workers can participate in all of this, and the only thing is the manager's the only one that can say yes or no and approve and decline those requests. Those are the team owners. All right, a team owner is kind of synonymous with a shift schedule manager. All right. So you can look at schedule, look at the request, the settings for this particular shift scheduler right here. You can change the day it starts. You can change the time off options that you have. You can add custom options. You can get rid of some of these if you want to. You can determine whether or not your employees can see those open available shifts if you just rather manually assign them shifts as opposed to them choosing them. All right. And then when you copy shifts, there is this option in here if I want to include the shift activities, which is a separate item inside of the shift, or maybe I just want to copy the shift schedule, in which case I don't want the activities, so I can turn that off. All right, we go back to schedule. You can copy the schedule itself. If you click on this drop down right here, you can export the timesheet, which is really nice. So if you're using this for basic shift scheduling and you want to export this out, it makes it this really, really nice time management worksheet. Let's show you what it looks like. So you can see, here's the hours, which don't have anything in them. So you can see here's the hours of who's been working and what their shift was. And then it'll show you their total number of hours. The other thing in shifts you can see up here is that you can see the total number of hours for this group for this time period. You can see the hours that are assigned to that person right over here. And maybe if I want to look at a different view over here, you can change the view. Maybe I want to see it by day. And you can see that it shows me the hours by day for these people. Maybe I want to see it by week, or maybe I want to see it by month. And it'll show you all of that kind of in this really nice view. I think shifts is a really unsung hero. I don't think people realize how nice it is and how far it's come. But if you're doing basic shift management for people, this is a really great thing to look at. All right, any quick questions or anything you want me to show you on shifts? I know I didn't go into deep dive. I actually do an entire session on shifts that's an hour long. With this one, I only get a few minutes. If you have any quick questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next section. All right. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is Microsoft Planner. I'm sure you've heard about it, but you're kind of like, what the heck is Microsoft Planner? There's some kind of fun tips and tricks around Planner. So Microsoft Planner is designed for team and task organization. It is a task management tool. First and foremost, it's a task management tool. I'd say it's a project management tool, but there's a lot of things in a project management tool that are kind of missing from this. It's really, really, really designed to identify the tasks that need to be done, assign the tasks that need to be done, and keep track of the details around those tasks. So that's why I call it a task management tool for team and task organization. It's very similar to tools like Trello, where you're keeping track of one-to-one tasks. You can create plans in terms of I'm trying to accomplish a certain thing, and here's the tasks that are required to accomplish that. You can keep track of the tasks within it. You can share files and attachments. You can keep comments in there. And I'll give you kind of a little quick demo of this here in a minute. It is arranged by boards and buckets, so very similar to a Kanban board, where you can see things on a board, and you can use buckets to organize it. You can use task lists in here, so I'll show you what that looks like as well. The really nice thing is it's built in charts and graphs. So as I pull in here and we look at the task list, it's got out of the box graphs and charts that are created for you that you may or may not really want to mess with. in something larger like project. So Planner does include some of those little dashboards, and there is no requirement to have a Power BI license to see these basic dashboards that are in Planner. It's all inclusive of the tool you already have with your Office 365 license. That's one of my favorite features of it. You don't have to go build another Power BI report for this. It's already built in, and I'll show you what it looks like. There is a basic calendar schedule that's built into Planner. It does not sync with Outlook, as you can see on the bottom. But it is a really nice tool, and I'll show you how that works as well. So the big thing that you want to know is that Office 365 groups automatically associate with a primary plan. So the first plan is kind of with the group, but you can always create additional plans for the same group. I recommend doing this in something like SharePoint Online, or when you go into Planner, if you're going to make it, be really, really clear about what it is. They've made this a lot more intuitive since I updated this deck last. It used to be that was kind of like the only place you could do it safely. Now you can do it in a lot of different places, but I don't think people realize that you can create multiple plans per group or team. You can have multiple Planner plans now for the same group, and it's fairly easy. Once you're done with that, the really neat thing about this is you can take that planner and you can make a tab in Teams just for that planner so that you can have visibility directly in Teams. Like I said before, the big thing to remember is if you're going to view this in Outlook, it does not sync. You can export it from your calendar in Planner to Outlook, but it's not going to go back and forth. It's only going to be kind of this one time. We built out the plan, we pushed it out to Outlook. If you make any changes after that on the dates, you have to go update them in Outlook as well. Pros and cons. This is actually some feedback that I provided to the Planner team about a month ago. They did a Ask Me Anything, and I sat on the phone with one of their engineers for about half an hour. And one of the things that I really explained to them was that with Outlook, you need to be able to sync that. And so they put that as part of the feedback for some of the changes that they would like to make. If you guys want to see Planner, I just think this one's kind of fun. There is a real world use case out there with Andre has Planning the Death Star with Microsoft Planner. I've got the link in here. It's out there in SlideShare, so you can look and see a real world use case of somebody using Planner to accomplish a task. All right, so the first thing to know is that there is this thing called Planar Hub, which I will show you. And what that means basically is there's one place to see all your Planner plans. So yes, you can use these in Teams. Yes, you can use them in SharePoint. And guess what? Yes, there is an app as well. So you can see the Planner Hub in on your browser, but you can also go to the app to look at your plan, and you can see the tasks right there. So just like we talk about in shifts, as a manager, it's really nice to go to the browser, manage my plans, update my tasks, whatnot. But as a user, I think it's really nice to either use the Planner app or use the Microsoft Teams app and just have it as a tab, and you can access it right there, look at my tasks, get my tasks done, mark them off, and be good to go. All right, let me show you what Planner looks like. So once again, I'm just going to Office 365, and you can start from pretty much anywhere for Planner, but I'm just going to start in the Planner app because it makes the most sense. So if I go into the Planner app, this is what we call the Planner Hub, meaning all of my plans live here. Everything that I have access to is right here in this Planner Hub. This is one of those things for years and years and years in SharePoint. Everybody's like, can you put all my tasks in one place so I don't have to go look for them? Yes, if you use Planner, that happens. You can come into Planner Hub, click on this My Tasks, and it will show you every single task that you have across all of your different plans. This is something it's difficult to do in other places. So maybe I want to look at them by due date, maybe I want to look at them in priority. I can see these are the tasks that I need to be working on, but notice they're coming from different plans. So I can see all of my tasks in one place. So the Planner Hub definitely has that going for it. If I go to Planner Hub, you can see that I can see the recent plans I've worked with are all plans. I see a quick question from Paula. Is your version already merged with To Do? Yes. So To Do should automatically, so what you're going to, it's the other way around. You're actually going to see planner tasks inside of to-do as opposed to to-do apps in planner. So planner tasks are one type of task that can come into your to-do app. Absolutely. So inside of Planar Hub, I can see all of the plans that I have access to right here. I can work with them. I can create a new plan directly from here. Remember I said, keep an eye on where you're making your plan, because you could make a new plan, and if you make a new plan and you don't join it to an existing group, it will make a new group for you, and you don't necessarily need that unless you know that's what you're doing. If you want to add a new plan to an existing group, make sure you click on this add to existing group and tell it which group you want to add it to, so that it knows that it's adding it to a group and not creating a new group. If I create a new group instead, it's going to say, is this a public or private group? And then I'll be able to make my plan. So just make sure you know what you're doing. Are you creating a plan that's going to create a new group, or are you simply adding a new plan to an existing group? And yes, I know that's complicated, but just make sure you know what it is you're trying to accomplish. Once you do that, they'll all be right out here. Okay, so these are your plans. If I go into, let's say, for example, my HR plan, now you can see this is kind of like a board where I can have buckets. I can have tasks that are added out here. I can have people. You see that these are all the same people that are in that Office 365 group / team. If I have teams, these are all the same people that have access to that plan by way of that particular group. So on my board, I can quickly see that I can add tasks. The really lovely thing to this is if I just want to add a task, it gives me this teeny tiny little task thing. So I'm going to say that maybe we need to buy prizes for this. I can decide if I want to assign and set a due date now or later. I don't even know. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that task. But the great thing is, now that I've added that task, once I click on it, it's going to boom out into this large task item that now I can assign to somebody. I can add labels to. I can define all these details around it. I can give it a due date. I can give it notes. Remember I told you you could have a task list within it. So here's my checklist. First, I want to review options. Then I want to review budget. Then I want to purchase prizes. See how I can have steps within here? And I can determine whether or not there's this little show on card. If you look over here, this is the card that it's talking about. If I don't want to see them, I can take it off. If I do want to see them, I can check that little box. I can add attachments to this, and those attachments are actually stored within the group files that are associated on that SharePoint site, so we know exactly where they're going to go. I can leave comments in here. These comments right here, the big thing to remember is if I put notes at the top, I can change those notes as many times as I want. So these are notes. I can show them on the card if I'd rather see that than my tasks, but I can change them as often as I want. If I go down here and make a comment, okay, so maybe I want to make a comment. When I do that, it's actually going to time and date stamp it, and I can't ever go back and get rid of that. So comments are great for like long-term, I want to keep track of this, super audited information, whereas notes are things that are like going to change on a regular basis. I just want to tell people something, and I don't necessarily need to worry about it getting time and date stamped. All right, so I've got all that in there. I can copy tasks. I can move them from one plan to another plan. I can copy a link, or I can get rid of them right here in the task. The next thing that I really like about Planner is that it's easy to work in Planner. So let's say, for example, this is going to change the status. I don't want to have to go into that card and update it. If you've ever been a project manager, the last thing you want to do is go update another freaking task. So instead, what I can do is I can simply drag it from this to-do area to the waiting area. And what's really nice is, check it out, it changed my bucket for me. If I drag it again, and this works for everything in Planner, if I click on it, oh, look, it changed it to almost done. I didn't have to go in that task and change that. I could if I wanted to. I could go in here and change this, and then it will update it, or I can just simply drag and drop it, and that saves me a ton of time to not have to mess with it. Now, remember I told you that there are charts and graphs and that there's a schedule. So I'm going to quickly show you that right here at the top. If I want to see how everything's going on this particular plan, check it out. I don't need to be a Power BI guru, and I don't have to have a Power BI license. I can just simply go in here and I can see here's the overall status of these tasks. Here's the buckets that I've predefined. And if I scroll down, it'll show me who has which tasks and how many and what status they're in. Okay, so this is really nice, quick view. No, you can't customize it. No, there's not more than this. But I think for the most part, from a task management perspective, this is really enough for most people. Once again, over here, you can see on the left, I've got my different statuses. And then the last piece is the schedule. So you can see how it's a little calendar. One of the cool things, remember, I told you can drag and drop. I don't have to go in the task and change the date. Instead of trying to decide what it is, maybe later I can go back and look at my calendar and I can say, oh yeah, I'm going to try and get this done this weekend. Maybe I'll do it next week. Check it out. I can drop it there. And if I open this now, it assigned the due date for me. So instead of me having to go into all of those tasks and making the changes, I can simply drag them onto the calendar. And if I change my mind, I can change the date here, or I can simply get rid of the date by putting them back over here. So it just, for me, I'm a visual person and I don't like having to go into 87,000 forms to fill them out. I just want to drag and drop them across my screen, and it makes a humongous difference if it's easy like that. All right. Remember I told you as with the schedule, it doesn't sync to Outlook, but you can push it out. So up on the Planar Hub, you can click on this ... and if you go all the way down to the bottom, there's this Add Plan to Outlook Calendar. When you do that, if you click this, what's going to happen is it's going to copy the plan directly to your Outlook calendar, and then you can work with it from there. So if you build this all out, have it ready to go the way you want it to, and you just simply want to see it on your calendar, you can do that as well. Another thing you can do is take that, and then if you pop up in your group calendar, you can drag and drop it over to that as well. All right. I can see different views in here in the Planner Hub. I can change the way I filter things, or I can change the buckets that I'm looking at. So all kinds of cool stuff in Planner Hub. I want to quickly show you how I can take this though, and I've got all these different plans that I could be looking at. I can go into Teams, and I can simply say, I've got this plan, and I want to see it inside of Teams, and I want my team to be able to see it and check it out. It works exactly the same. Anything that I've added, anything I've changed is in here, and it will show up. See, there's that buy prizes we've just been working on that I just added right there, already in here. And as I change it, it doesn't matter where I change it, it'll automatically update. To be able to do that, you just click this little plus up here, click Planner, and then you can either create a new plan from here. Just remember, if you create a new plan, it's going to add it to this, or use an existing plan that I've already got. So if you've already made the plan in Planner, you can go in here and grab it. I personally think that's easier than trying to create a new plan from here. I'd rather do it in Planner and know what plans I have that are associated with which groups. And then I just simply say use an existing plan, grab the plan I want, and then it'll show it in there. And now you can see it right there. So I see a question, can you set a reminder notification for tasks? Not in Planner specifically. What ends up happening is there's actually a plan life cycle. So when you do due dates, you'll get little notifications if things change in Planner based on your notification preferences. That's one of the things that's still kind of coming along. All right, so that's a little bite-sized chunk around Planner. If you have any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, we've got a few minutes left to go to our last topic. All right. So our last topic today in our little appetizer sampler is Microsoft Forms. So if you haven't worked with forms, it's a really easy tool to pop in and do some quizzes and surveys, but I'm going to give you a little bit more information because a lot of people are like, okay, but what else is there? So Microsoft Forms are included in pretty much every version of Office 365, even the free personal option. So you can get Forms anywhere. It's designed as a lightweight, easy application to create surveys, quizzes, and polls. That's what Microsoft says. It's designed to create surveys, quizzes, and polls. Questions and answers. That's what it's there for. So if I have a question and I want people to answer that question, or I want to give them options, this is the perfect tool for that. The biggest thing with Microsoft Forms itself is that it's limited to a basic form or quiz. So you're not going to be doing any crazy branching. You're not going to be able to do big, humongous things. It's just a simple form to say, I have some questions and I want people to answer them. There are a few limits with Microsoft Forms. You can only have 200 forms per person. You can only have 100 questions on a form, and you're limited to 50,000 responses per form, okay? I know that doesn't sound like it's too terribly small, but it's not designed for some humongous feat. It's designed really for people to send something small out and get it back. You can use Microsoft Forms in the browser, basically. There's not a mobile app. So it does have a desktop app. It does have a mobile app. It has a browser app, but it does not have a mobile app. Okay, so you can only use this on your computer, on your phone, in the browser. You can't use it in a mobile app. There is a way to set it up so that when you create a form, you can send out an anonymous link. So you can essentially send it out to anybody. The one nice thing about this is if you're making a form in SharePoint, they have to authenticate to get into that if anonymous links are turned off. Whereas in Forms, it doesn't matter. I don't care where they're at. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they sign in. I can send them that anonymous link and they can fill out that form and get it back to me. And then once I've done that, all of that data gets put in a list and then I can export it out to a spreadsheet afterwards. So the other tool that a lot of people don't understand is that there's Microsoft Forms and there's also another tool called Microsoft Forms Pro. That's the other side of Microsoft Forms. So if you are talking to somebody like, oh, I can do these other things, they might have the Forms Pro license. If you have Dynamics 365, you more than likely already have Forms Pro and just don't even realize it because it's already included with most Dynamics plans. If you don't have Dynamics, it is available as an upgrade to Office 365 for the low price of $100 a month. The neat thing is that Forms Pro allows you to do things that you can't do in Forms. First of all, it gives you access to an additional couple thousand survey responses per month, which isn't a huge deal, but what it does do is it lets you integrate with other tools. All right. So the biggest difference is if you look down here at the bottom, it supports Flow, email, portals, Dynamics, and Power Apps. So let's see, I have a quick question. Does the limit of 200 for an individual apply if you turn a form into a group form? So 200 for, I don't remember if that changes it if you turn it into a group form. I think what ends up happening is it adds up the total numbers of that you're allowed to do and then bulks it together for the group. I'm pretty sure that you get like a tenant number as opposed to an individual number if you're using them in group forms. You'll have to test that out. But so the biggest thing with the Forms Pro license isn't we don't care about really the additional responses and stuff like that. What we care about is that you can now use that form, that anonymous form, that external form that you can send to anybody. You can now use that with Power Automate. You see, I didn't update that word. Whoops. You can use it with Power Automate. You can use it with Outlook and email. You can use it with the Power App portals. You can use it with Dynamics 365, things like that. So you can now integrate it into business processes where you don't have to use Power Apps or SharePoint for that. You can go in and you can say, when a certain status happens, I then want to send this Forms Pro survey out. When into my Dynamics 365, I then want to send out an email to follow up. So this is the big difference, is that it's included with Dynamics, but if you don't have Dynamics, you can take advantage of that same tool by getting it and using it with Office 365 and then baking it into your business processes. The other big thing is data is available real time in here, and you can use the data from Forms Pro and Power BI, whereas the data from the regular Forms tool, it goes into basically a spreadsheet. This data is available, and you can pull it in from Azure, and you can work a little bit faster with it. All right, so let's take a quick look at Microsoft Forms. So you guys can see what that looks like. So once again, if I just go to my All Apps, I can click right here on Forms. The really neat thing about Forms is they're so easy. All right, so I can pick a new form or a new quiz depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. All I do is click on a new form, say, okay, what am I doing with this? And then you put this in here, you say I want to add new, and it says, okay, what kind of question do you want to ask them? And I can say, I'm going to give them a choice. Make choices. And then notice, here's the neat thing, Microsoft's getting really predictive because I've asked something that the AI understands. It's like, wait, we think we know where you're going with this. Check that out. Isn't that fun? All right. So I can let people pick from that. I can add another question. And then maybe I just leave this a text. If I want it to be a long answer, I can give them a little extra space. Oh, Forms is trying to help me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. If I want to add a little bit of branching in here, I can. Remember I said it's not designed to do all the business process automation, but it's, if you're just doing a really simple survey or a really simple form, that's fine. So then we're going to say, okay, we're done with this. We can make it pretty if we want to. Maybe we want to give it a pretty color. Or we want to give it some nice background. We can do that. If we want to see what it's going to look like, we can preview it. Look how nice that looks. I want to see what it looks like on my phone. Okay, that looks great. When I'm done, I can share this out. And this is where it's really nice. You can say, I want to send it to only people in my organization, or anybody can do this. All they need is this link. And I can copy this link. And now if I go to the link, there's my fancy, look, I mean, that took me like what, 3 minutes. So you go in here, I've got this great survey. I'm going to pick which one I like. Let's say vanilla is the best. And I like Cold Stone. And I'm going to submit that. It already did that for me. Everything's taken care of. And now I can go back into my forms and check it out. I didn't even have to update. I didn't even have to refresh, and there's already a response. And so I can see how people start responding to this in a graphical way without having to do really anything. It'll tell me what my answers are. And if I want to export this out to Excel, I simply click that Open Excel option. It's going to download it to my computer. And it's going to then give me, here's all the responses and where they came from and what their selections were. All right, so Forms is really designed just to be this super easy tool. to send out information. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times people have asked me about survey tools or quiz tools or, you know, just a quick form. We use this for our speakers. So I run the Kansas City user group. And for our speaker submissions, we just have a really easy form that's set up for people to fill that out. And then we actually have that coming into our tenant. It dumps it straight into a SharePoint list. We have the SharePoint list then in a tab in Teams. So I know exactly when somebody submits, it just pops up for me and it's right there. So forms can be really, really handy and really, really easy to use. And then don't forget that Forms Pro lets you kind of go another step above and do more fancy automation. All right, I do want to give you a little bit of information before I go. So a lot of people don't realize that there is actually some really good training out there. Microsoft's been doing a really nice job of adding training for people. So if you go to support.office.com, and here's the kicker, do this / and then just type in training. There's an entire training center that Microsoft has put out here. And for every application, they've got like little quick trainings. So if you're like trying to learn about a tool maybe you don't recognize or you don't understand, you can just pop in here and watch some training. There's some basic tips, tricks, quick starts, templates down here that you can look at. And I always like to tell people, remember how we used to pay all this money for the infographics? Guess what? There's a whole section on infographics right here. And you can actually download infographics for almost all of the primary applications now. So you can see like tips and tricks in Excel. Here's some, 50 time saving Excel shortcuts. You can grab that PDF, download it to your computer, and check it out. There it is, all of the really nice shortcuts, and you can print it for you on your own. So I really like to tell people that this is out here because I don't think everyone realizes that it exists. And then if you want to get a little bit fancier, you can go out to learn and you can learn more about the admin stuff. Just remember, it's just support.microsoft.com /training. And it'll take you to all of that training information. All right, I think the rest of those are sponsor slides from the deck. Go back, pop this up for you. We got a couple minutes left. If you guys have any specific questions, let me know. I'll try to answer them. I'll try to show you things. If you need anything else, if you want to follow up with me afterwards, feel free to email me or follow me on Twitter. Otherwise, I'll stick around for a few more minutes for any questions anybody has. You guys are very, very welcome. Thanks for coming. And there's a whole day and tons and tons and tons of options. So thank you for coming to mine. And I hope you enjoy all the other sessions. I'll stick around for a few more minutes to answer any questions you guys have.